Hey guys, what is up? John here from FlyMikeAlpha.com with Garrett today. And Garrett is going to walk us through how he went from basically no aviation to flight attendant to paramotor, paragliding to pilot, fixed wing pilot, and now commercial pilot.
Yep.
All right, so basically, what was your first experience with aviation, or what was your first foray into aviation?
Well, I guess for me, it was like RC planes when I was a kid.
Okay.
So me and my dad used to fly RC planes all the time. So I guess that would be my first thing, making paper airplanes when you're a kid and, loving to fly.
Yeah, and then from there, how old were you when you first decided you wanted to try being a flight attendant?
So I guess long story short on that, I was married, divorced, moved to Nicaragua, and I was traveling through Nepal, Japan, and my aunt was a flight attendant at Delta, and she's like, well, you should look into being a flight attendant. You're doing all the same things most people do. And I was like, okay, put the seat in my head. And I applied for flight attendant job at Delta and Alaska Airlines and United when I was so I probably would have been 32 years old at that point.
Yep.
And I got a job offer 6 months later, at least to get an interview.
Yep.
Was working at Whole Foods, moved to my dad's basement when I got back from that trip. Got the offer after I passed the interview, and all right, all of a sudden I was a flight attendant in Seattle.
Yep.
And
that was with Alaska Airlines.
That was with Alaska, so I got the job offer from Alaska Airlines. So,
awesome.
and at that point, we got this thing called a flight observation. We get this one-time permit to go fly in the flight deck and kind of
sit in the jump seat.
Yeah, sit in the jump seat and see see what they do.
Yep.
I knew pilots existed, obviously, but I never dreamed of a job in aviation or what it was.
Didn't necessarily think you could be a pilot.
Yeah.
This is something you can do.
Yeah.
Anyone can do it, and you can do it.
Yeah. So, I got that flight, and it was the amazing day, through the southeast. So I chose we call it a milk run. It's going down here, so Anchorage to Juneau, Juneau to Sitka, Sitka down. So I saw all those spots and really cool southeast airports and
real Southeast Alaska.
Yeah,
it's pretty beautiful.
And spectacular days.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty epic flying that Alaska does into those airports. Pretty tight strips, a lot of water on both sides.
Yeah.
Water on three sides of it usually.
Yeah, nuts.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I asked some questions in the flight deck, and the guy's like, well, most people that come up here don't ask questions like that. Are you interested in you should become a pilot? And I'm like, well, okay, whatever. And that was 6 years ago. And it was in my head from that day forward, kind of thought, but I was enjoying being a flight attendant. I was traveling around, I had a ton of freedom, was traveling around the world.
Yeah.
It's oh, this is sweet,
Roughly what is flight attendant pay? So you're mid-30s and...
So when I started off, it was $16 an hour. And that was below, it wasn't good. So maybe
because that's $16 per flight hour.
Yeah.
So that's really
Correct.
Talking about 20 grand a year.
So I was making about $30,000 a year.
30,000 a year.
Yeah. So I was making when I started $30,000 a year, and I was living simply though. So it was it worked.
Yeah.
And and then we got some contract negotiations happened. We started making more money. I got pay raises through my years, and it ended up being a little bit better.
Yeah.
I got a little bit more freedom with seniority and all that kind of stuff. But in that meantime, I really got interested in paragliding. I was like, well, if I want to do aviation. I don't think I have the money to be a private pilot and make that commitment to start flying airplanes. Because I'm like, what am I going to do after I get a private pilot? I'm going to be a recreational flyer. How am I going to afford that? So all those things went in the head. I'm like, well, if I spend $10,000, I can get a paramotor, I can get a paraglider, and I can start flying. And go land on top of mountains and do the things I want to do.
Yeah.
So, that all took place. I got my paragliding license, and and then basically my instructor made me go through the process of becoming a paraglider before he would teach me anything about paramotoring.
Okay.
Just because it's so
So you went paragliding, paramotor, and that was about 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, that was about, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, right about the same time you took your jump seat ride.
So about 5 years ago, I'd say, maybe 4 years ago at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you did that for a while, and then, how long ago did you decide that you actually wanted to be a commercial pilot?
So I had decided that years ago, 3 years ago, I'm like, oh, I really want to do it, and then just never pulled the trigger. And but 10 months ago, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do it.
10 months ago at age?
Age, I'm 39.
39,
So I was 38. So I was
38 years old, time to pull the trigger, time to be a commercial pilot, and do this.
Yeah.
So, and not too late to start at all. I mean, that's a good time.
So, if I can get through there and get minimums, I mean, that's a 24-year career,
And
you
so
know?
that was 10 months ago, you finally decided to pull the trigger, and that was when you started your private pilot training?
Private pilot training, yeah.
Gotcha. And so how long did private pilot training take?
So I was a 40-hour pilot, 40-hour private pilot. A lot of your school helped out in that. I did fly Mike Alpha every day. Even when it was winter, I'd check stuff out. I would do the ground school. I got through all that before really I even started flying the airplane.
Gotcha.
And I got my knowledge exams done, got everything done, and just I'm about to plug another school, but I got a lady named Carol Zerby. She's a great flight instructor here, northbound flying, and she was going to teach her son how to fly and I wanted to get my commercial rating, my commercial certificate, and I was like, well, I need a plane to do that, and the way I can afford it is to buy an airplane and start the whole process in that. We kind of formed a partnership, and we bought an airplane, and she taught me through my instrument rating, and
So you own part of an airplane, and so what would you say it took zero to private with ownership costs, everything like that, and paying your instructor? What did your total private pilot come out to be, do you think?
In that sense, probably like $25,000.
About $25,000 for the private pilot.
Because of the airplane.
So once you sold that share and everything in it, what do you think maybe 8,000, 6,000?
Yeah, probably about $8,000, you know, probably in there. And then, and through instrument training and all that. So all in all, then we go into another thing of how I was helped out, but that was a huge help, getting through hours with that.
Yeah, and doing a partnership, buying an airplane, especially if you split the ownership cost, really cuts things down. So instead of being a $10,000 or $12,000 private pilot, now maybe $6,000, $8,000.
Correct. Yeah, for sure.
And then that airplane you used for your instrument?
I did, and my commercial hours at least, getting through all the requirements, cross countries and all that.
And so you did that over the past 10 months, and about how many months into it were you an instrument pilot?
5 months.
About 5 months into it, you get your instrument. You're working full-time still for the airline. Still an active flight attendant, still working a full-time schedule. And flying when you can. And so that was 5 months ago, you got the instrument, you built time, and now 10 months into it, you're a commercial single-engine land pilot. And as of this morning, he's halfway to a commercial multi. You got the oral knocked out, and he's going to ace the flight portion hopefully tomorrow. But
we'll see about weather.
Cold here in Anchorage.
Super. It's crazy, So and then through my commercial, I got another really great aid. So I was called something in the state of Alaska. They have STEP funding, which if you're in a certain career, basically, and you qualify under minimum wage, which I do as a flight attendant still. I'm under minimum wage for the state of Alaska at least, and it offers you basically like a grant. It gives you money without having to pay back, and it pays for one of your licenses towards whatever thing you're looking for.
Some sort of advancement in your field.
So be it a truck driver, be it a pilot, whatever it is, they help you out in that thing.
So they're helping you out with the commercial single and the commercial multi.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So they offered, it was $9,000. So I got a $9,000 money here. This whatever it goes to. If it costs you more, it's up to you. If it costs you less.
So $9,000 that went towards your commercial single multi. What do you think altogether, zero to hero, right? Zero to commercial multi, not CFI yet, but zero private instrument, commercial single, commercial multi. What's that going to cost total?
So probably with that, with accounting that money, like if I didn't pay it, probably $20,000.
About $20,000. So really about $30,000 total. Zero to commercial pilot, and that's pretty cheap. And I think that's largely due, you could probably agree, to owning your own airplane, having a share in your own aircraft.
That's the only way.
And working with a private instructor that was able to really help you, and doing a lot of studying on your own before you got into the airplane, doing the entire ground school before you went for your private pilot training, doing all the ground school for instrument before you started instrument training. Doing that ground study made you the minimums,
Yep.
right? Made you a 40-hour pilot, made you the minimum pilot at Instrument,
Yep.
and got you through a lot cheaper.
Yep,
in
for
the
sure.
end.
Yeah, no, because that every single time is like I'm not learning as I'm going. I've learned it. Now it's about playing. You know.
Yep, it's just about practice,
Yep.
and then show that you can do it on the Checkride, and then
Yep.
you move on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's nuts.
0 to hero, 10 months, pretty
Yeah.
quick, and so you're looking at maybe another month or two, you'll be a CFI here.
Yeah, if I want. I don't think I'm gonna go that route, but yeah.
I don't think you're gonna. So
I'm-
what's your route? Because ultimately, commercial pilot, you want to.
Yeah.
What's
so
your end goal?
so here in Alaska, we have all the 135 operations.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can get on with one of these operations and be able to fly at hours that way, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
experienced that way, that would be the route I'd like to go to get to the next step into the 121
Gotcha.
world, into the whole other world. You
So
know?
are you looking at somebody that'll take you at 250 or 500 hours?
So
or?
I'm going to be 300. I'm 300 at this
Yep.
point, which isn't like, hey, it's minimum hours, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there are a few people here that will take you with low air time.
Okay, below 500.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, and if I can get on with one of those and start time, then yeah, then I'm building up.
What's your starting pay? Do you think you're going to be at?
Ooh, I haven't really even looked at that.
Yeah.
I'm going after the job because I'm actually excited about working and doing it, and
being able to fly and
Yeah.
probably make about the same or more.
I think it's probably about the same.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to be taking a huge cut, and I know after 3 years, let's say, or even if I make it to captain, if I get 2 years into the job and I make the captain seat, then I'm making way more money than I've ever made,
Sure.
and then it's a whole other world. So 2 years
Yeah.
into this, it's worth the sacrifice for any pay that I'm going to be losing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd say anywhere you can easily make 100 grand a year in aviation as a pilot a few years into it.
Yep.
I mean, you'll be 2 years in, you'll be making 100 grand a year. If you're willing to move and take not necessarily your first choice job,
Yep.
you can totally easily make 6 figures.
Yep.
If you're really picky and you want to live in a certain spot and you want to fly a certain airplane, maybe you'll make more, maybe you'll make less.
Yep.
But yeah, it's an easy way to guarantee 6-figure income if you're willing to move and willing to do the jobs that other guys aren't willing to do.
Yeah,
So
no. So be low in planes and
Yeah.
being out. Yeah, it's going to be
You're
interesting.
gonna be
yeah.
a little cold.
Yeah, it's going to be
Fingers and toes are
interesting.
gonna be cold.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting.
That's awesome. So 32 years old, became a flight attendant.
Yep.
And about 35, 36 decided, hey, I really kind of want to do this. And at 38, you finally pulled the trigger.
Yep.
And said, this is what I want to do with my life.
Yep.
I want to pursue aviation. I want to be a commercial pilot. In
Yeah.
some aspect, flying a 737 or flying these 185s that are deafeningly loud that are
Yeah.
going past us.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're doing it.
I'm doing
and you're
it.
really close.
Yeah, man,
It's like right there. You've
Yeah.
already done. You're a commercial pilot now.
Yeah,
It's just a matter
now
of
the next
finding a
step, yeah,
job
yeah.
and finishing that check ride from this morning.
I know.
So
I can't wait.
awesome. Congratulations.
All right, man.
I'm so glad that you chose to pursue it.
Yeah.
And it's a success story. It really
Yeah.
is. It's an achievable thing. So hopefully other people can learn from this,
Yeah.
take from Garrett's story, and pursue this as well. It's never too late. And with the right amount of work and
Yep.
effort and preparation, it can be done affordably, it can
Yep.
be done quickly.
Yep.
So
For sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
Great,
All right,
man. So the takeaway from this video is this. Garret went from 0 to commercial multi-engine pilot in 10 months. He did it while working for the airline full-time as a flight attendant. So full-time work, made the best use of his time in hotels and dead time at work to study and really immerse himself in aviation to be able to accomplish all this in 10 months. And he did it for under $30,000. Now, looking at other big name flight schools out there, they're advertising about $65,000, $70,000, $80,000 to go from 0 to commercial multi. He did it for half that. So if I said I was going to save you $5,000 on your flight training, you may want to listen to what I had to say. Garret literally saved almost $40,000 or more on his flight training by following these simple steps, right? Completing the ground school before he ever began flight training for private, for instrument, and commercial. Went through the ground school at flyatmikealpha.com and studied all that, learned everything he needed to know before getting into the airplane. He also did it quickly, which helped save a lot of money, and he also bought into a share of an airplane, had a partner to share costs, so he was a 50-50 partner, buying into that airplane and being able to use it at a much reduced cost rather than renting an airplane. All that compiled together, especially with studying in advance and being able to not spend so much time in the airplane and not spend so much time paying a flight instructor to explain things to you, really helped him save money and helped him accomplish this in pretty short amount of time. So hopefully his story is inspiring to you and may make you consider, hey, even though you're only making 30, 40 grand a year, you can do this. You can go be a commercial pilot. And he did so, made that decision at 38 years old, and is now going to be making some money, flying around, living the dream, right? Being able to fly and get paid to fly. So hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave it in the comments below, and we will see you guys in the next video.